Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Coach Val here. We're going to talk today about your relationship with protein. Now, I know that topic might sound a little bit funny to some people because to some people, protein is something that you associate with like a meathead or someone who's obsessed with doing push ups and spray tans and six pack abs. But please, in this video, we're going to try to get away from that kind of thinking, okay? If that's a stereotype you're familiar with, let's try to put that away because I want you to understand the incredible relevance that protein will play in your longevity. I actually mean if you're getting the right amount of protein, you're likely to live longer. You're going to be staving off more diseases, more conditions that you could be predisposed to from your lifestyle and the environment or your genetics, and you're going to feel better. You're going to have, in most cases, better mobility, less joint pain, healthier bones, all kinds of great things. So we'll get into it all in just a moment. First, if you could, like and subscribe. I want you and the rest of the internet to get these videos more frequently delivered to you. So please make sure you subscribe and like the video so that you and more people can get these videos. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. In this video, we're going to talk about first the amount of protein that most people need. Please keep in mind, I'm speaking to all kinds of different people with different physiology. And for that reason, these general guidelines are only going to apply to some of you and not all of you. You're all going to have totally different makeup and different reasons as to why these numbers are appropriate or maybe need some tweaking and are not so appropriate. So we'll talk about the amount, the quantity of protein you're going to want first. I'll give you some solid data there. Then we're going to talk about the quality of protein that I'm going to suggest to you. There's all kinds of protein out there, but only some are really all that productive and others are not necessarily the proteins that you're going to want to go to. And then third, I want to get more specific with you about exactly how and why these protein levels are going to matter. Okay, I want to give you paint a better picture to you that's more memorable so that these lessons that I'm giving you here become more sustainable. So you don't just watch the video and then turn it off and forget all about it. I want to say some things to you later that hopefully will really hit home. So we'll get there in a few minutes, but let's talk about the amount of protein that you need in a day. Okay, now this really varies by your body weight and by your activities. If you're doing, let's say you're pretty active, like you're moving around a lot, you don't have a sit down job, but your movement is not vigorous, meaning there might be a lot of walking or standing or really small movements in your life, and there's a lot of them, but they're never really vigorous. That's not going to increase protein demand terribly. It's only going to increase it by about 10 or 15 or 20% or so. Now, when you get into vigorous exercise, like if you're someone who does long distance running, or heavy strength training, like hopefully you're doing, and if not, you will be doing soon, I hope. That is going to require a lot more protein for the body. So the body is really, its needs are based on your weight and your overall output from the muscles, like how much kind of work and how intense is the work coming from the muscles. Now, all that said, the right amount of protein for you could potentially be as low as about zero point 0.5 or zero point 0.6 grams of protein per day per pound of body weight. Meaning if you're a 200-pound person, you might only really need about 100 grams of protein. Now, most science is going to say that's too low. I think as the science furthers, we're going to find that that probably is too low. But worst case scenario, at the lowest number on the spectrum, if you were to weigh 200 pounds, you're probably going to want about 100 grams of protein in a day. Again, about 0.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Now, that's for someone who's not terribly active at all and someone who's not engaged in any kind of exercise program. As you get more engaged into longer movements and especially more intense movements, that number can climb all the way up to like 1.1 or sometimes even 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight throughout the day. So you see what a huge spectrum that is. It's like twice as much or even a little bit more than twice as much. So this is where you really want to work with a good coach. You want someone who can really calculate, do some of the math, and figure out what's going to be the most appropriate total grams of protein for you in a day. Now, the other thing is we got to ease into it. So let's say someone comes to me as a new client and I find out they're very active. They weigh perhaps 150 pounds. They're strength training, they're doing long distance running and all kinds of things. I might determine that, wow, you actually need like 160 or 170 grams of protein per day. How much are you getting right now? And if they say, oh, right now I'm only getting 70 or 80 grams, it's not a good idea to double the amount of protein that you're getting or even to significantly increase it suddenly. The body doesn't want that. Your digestive system doesn't want that. So what makes a little bit more sense is even though we know what the optimal needs to be over here, If you're all the way over here, if you're nowhere near that, we want to gradually work your way up over a few weeks. It's just a better, safer way to go. Now, you want to set some goals within that time frame. Again, I suggest working with a coach, but you want to set some goals so you're not just roundabout trying to increase protein, that you're actually calculating. There are apps out there that can help you do this. And again, certainly a good coach will help you. But you want to make sure that you're setting goals. So in the hypothetical that I gave you, let's say someone's only eating 75 a day, and the math would suggest that for their body weight and activities, they should be getting more like double that. You'll just gradually set goals. You'll say, okay, for this week, we're going to go from 75 on average grams of protein per day. Let's try 85. Okay, that week's gone well. Now let's try 95 or 100. And this way, over a little bit of time, you're gradually working your way up. Again, there's lots of different recommendations out there. We just need to look at the ones that are going to best apply to you. All right, so that's in a nutshell how you'll figure out what your protein needs are going to be. And then we look at your feedback as well. We look at how you're feeling. Are you feeling overwhelmed when you're eating? Or are you feeling like you're still very hungry at the end of the day? And that will help us to tweak some of the science as to how much protein you should be consuming. Now, instead of talking quantity, let's talk quality, okay? Because this matters a lot too. Your protein could come from relatively unhealthy sources. Unhealthy cheeses, pepperoni on a pizza is protein, right? There's cheeseburgers will get protein. There's all kinds of ways to get unhealthy proteins. I'm not saying that they won't still do something of the job. They can. But the problem is they're also going to have other harmful components that are not going to help your physiology. And if you're trying to get healthier, obviously we're going to want to lean into the healthier proteins, and preferably the ones that have all the essential amino acids. That's going to be helpful as well. So some of the best proteins out there are going to be protein from egg or egg white. You don't necessarily need the yolk to get a good amount of protein from an egg. You'll also find in tuna or any fatty fish, salmon, any kind of fatty fish at all, has a really good, nice source of protein. The concerns there, of course, are mercury levels. There's always a little bit of concern when you're dealing with fish. So you'll want to consider how much of my diet and how much of my total protein consumption should really come from fish. But please keep in mind, it's a really good, healthy protein profile. There are, of course, some risks, just like there are with pretty much anything. Now, whenever we talk protein, there's always some controversy because on one hand, we want you to get plant-based proteins because there's lots of advantage to plant-based food. On the other hand, it's only the animal-based proteins that always confidently have all the essential amino acids that you want. With plant-based proteins, things get a little bit more complicated because you have to start pairing certain foods together. Like we'll get rice and beans together so that you can get all the essential amino acids. You don't have to worry about that with animal-based foods. So I know there's a lot of controversy here, and of course, everyone has different viewpoints. Some people feel much better or prefer a plant-based diet. I certainly understand that. And at the same time, other people would prefer to, especially if they're new to protein monitoring, they just want to make it kind of simple and just rely on more animal-based foods, partially because they're easier and more convenient to get in good quantities. You can get them at a restaurant very easily. You don't really have to go through much trouble to get them in, but also because they contain all the essential amino acids that you're looking for naturally. So in that case, that's where cow milk, for example, meats, poultry can also be really beneficial. But again, it can be done with plant-based foods, absolutely. It just takes a little bit of pairing certain foods together. And then since we want to be concerned about, not getting too much protein either, and also too many carbs or fats as well, this is where we kind of have to manipulate a little bit more. But again, either way can work really well. Now let's get into the final part of this topic, okay? And that is ultimately your psychological relationship with protein. Protein might seem like something that's strictly to build aesthetic muscle, and you might not care about what that looks like for you. But the way you want to understand protein is that the more protein the more close to the targets that we've talked about that you're getting, the more able your body is to either grow muscle, which is important, or to sustain the muscle tissue that you have. So let's say you come to a coach like myself and you say, I'm not really interested in gaining a lot of muscle. That just seems like it's too outside of my personality. Okay, well, that's not so bad. At least let's maintain what you have. Because statistically, I want you to know that as we get older, unless we're nurturing and really taking care of our muscle mass, we're certain to lose it. That's just what happens with muscle when it's not kept up. And so whatever amount of muscle mass is on your body right now, not only are we actually going to need the workout component too, which I'll save for another video, but the protein intake has got to be right. If you can at least get the protein intake right, we're going to be well on our way to sustaining most of the muscle tissue that you have. Okay, that's critical. And so what does that do for you? Well, for one, cognitive decline, which becomes so common as people age. Cognitive decline is a lot less likely when you have the right amount of muscle mass on your body. And again, protein contributes to that muscle mass. So it's a nice healthy connection that we want to maintain. Now also being under-muscled. This is kind of a newer term in health and wellness, but under-muscled is actually what we're finding is causing so many problems, or at least is allowing so many health problems to happen in the body. So for example, people with high blood sugars. I spoke about this in a couple of recent videos as well. People with high blood sugars, as soon as we gain some muscle, just a few small pounds of muscle, those blood sugars start to normalize. It's incredible what muscle mass can do for blood sugar regulation. And the same can be said for a lot of other components of your body. Even hypertensives, for example, people with elevated blood pressure, when we put enough muscle on their body healthfully, we generally start to see the blood pressure improving. So there's a lot of factors throughout the body, from hormone levels to your cardiovascular system, cognition, and even in terms of joint health and bone health. We get so many benefits because when you think about osteoarthritis, when you think about the cartilage getting lost over the years, getting chipped away, if you have muscle mass on your body and if you're nurturing that muscle mass and keeping a quality muscle mass, if you're keeping it healthy, well, the joints don't have to absorb so many impact forces as you go about your day. Now, most of that impact, most of those forces can go into the muscles. But if you don't have much muscle, and if there's not good quality muscle that's really working effectively for you, now the joints tend to suffer more. Same can really be said to a certain degree about the bones. Bone mineral density, osteopenia and osteoporosis can be reversed through the right strength training and the right protein intake as well. So you see, it's all a big circle. And when I talk about your relationship with protein, I've had hundreds of people come to me where when I start talking about protein intake, they say, "Oh, that's really foreign to me. I don't really want to do that. I'll just try to generally eat better and I'll try to do a little bit of exercise and I'll call it good." And what I'm here to tell you in this video is, although those are good starting steps, they're not going to get you across the finish line if your goal is to be unmedicated, live a natural, healthy life, to move well, to be pain-free, to live a long life, and to stay out of the hospital. If you're looking for those kind of things, if you're looking to truly age well, where you're active and feeling great in your own skin, the way you want to do this is you want to start by getting the right relationship with protein. Even if it takes weeks of just thinking about this and recalibrating your mentality before you actually start to consume the right amount of protein, that's worth it. Do what you need to do mentally so that your psychology is ready to start getting the right amount of protein each day so you can stave off disease and live your best life. So guys, listen, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the video and to the channel. My name is Coach Val. I'm looking forward to your health and your wellness success. Reach out to me anytime and look for some freebies, some downloads that we have here in the description as well. I'll see you in the next video.